Thank you. Good evening and welcome to Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council Amenities Committee tonight, Wednesday the 8th of January. I shall remind everybody about placing their phones onto airplane mode or turning off, please, due to it affecting the recording. Thank you. Swiftly on to item 1 of the agenda tonight, which is public participation. I see we have some members of the public here tonight, which is great. If you could recognise by showing your hand if you wish to speak, please. No one wishes to speak. Okay, thank you. I shall move on to item number 2, which is apologies for absence. Ask our clerk, do we have any apologies?
No.
I believe we're 100% attendance. Excellent news. Item 3, to receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Councillor Byrne.
Member of Rother District Council, non-pecuniary.
Thank you. Item 4, Chair's announcements. I have none. Item 5 is the minutes, which have been circulated from Wednesday the 6th of November. I need a proposer and a seconder for me to sign these as a true and correct record. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Byrne. Seconder? Councillor Goss. Thank you. Please take comfort while I initial and sign these. Thank you. Item 6 is public conveniences. So we'll start with 6A, is to note that we have now received 3 tenders for the Devonshire Square toilet refit, and the scoring through our procurement process and results will be submitted to the next meeting for consideration. So that's good news. Councillor Goss.
That's another 2 months on.
Yes.
I just wonder what the validity of the tenders was, because often they're only 3 months or something.
I'm not sure there is.
It's possible to circulate before the next meeting, so
they have to be. We have to go through the procurement process,
yeah,
which is they've got to be scored and then dealt with through that process. I believe our clerks had conversations with the relevant people. Generally, there's a 3 to 4 month lead in anyway for it to start. So,
it's just for acceptance.
I think we are aware that it will take time anyway to set it up, but that's good news that we've got the 3 quotes, because we have had issues in the past with getting quotes from trades, so that's good news. 6B is a replicate of a note from a previous meeting, is to note that Rother District Council have been advised of the Town Council's desire to obtain the freehold of the currently closed public toilets by using the Rother District Council asset disposal policy, and once the valuation is available, that the Town Council enters negotiations with Rother District Council with a view to obtaining the freehold. And we're waiting for a response from that. That was the motions that were put forward, I believe, in December for Council. So that is just for information, and we're waiting for the response from Rother District Council.
Excuse me, Chair. I understand the process is that they will be looking for people with a view to purchase such freeholds. Are rather aware that we are looking with a view to obtain the freeholds rather than purchase them, because we will probably be ended up with the ones that they cannot sell on. Due respect to District Council, they're going to try and get as much value as they can from it, because they're strapped for cash and they're stuck in a position where they can't raise funds anywhere else. But there will be a number of them that they can't pass on to any commercial activity, and so these are to be the ones that are no longer commercially viable. Therefore, it will be a weird situation that we will actually be purchasing them, purchasing the freehold. So I would expect that there will be a transfer of assets at no cost to us other than the legal fees. Is that the steer that the council is giving Rother District Council?
So that's the reason for this being copied and pasted in from the previous motion that was put forward, and that's they're the exact words that were the previous motion, which says once a valuation is available, then we can try and obtain the freehold. Obviously, that's subject to us wanting those freeholds for those toilets, and we're waiting for Rother to come back to us.
Are you confident that the council has made it clear that we will not be purchasing them? Because I don't think we're in a position to purchase. We are in a position to obtain and negotiate the freeholds. I don't know if the clerk can advise us on that, whether she has got a steer from the council as a whole on that basis, on that subject.
It's an interesting point you raise, and without the valuation we don't know what the situation is. So we're waiting for the valuation. If the valuations come back at zero, then that is straightforward. If they come back at a value, then we would have to make that decision as a town council. That wouldn't be for Rother to decide that. That would be for us to decide whether we want to obtain the freeholds or not.
But they will always have a value of some sort. What we're looking at is we won't be looking at the value in monetary terms. We'll be looking at the value in social terms, and that hasn't got a monetary value.
I'm not sure that that is the case, because until we have the answer from Rother as to what their valuation is, we don't know whether there's a value attached to it or not. We have to ask what that is when they've followed through that disposal policy. I can check with the clerk. Is that how you see the situation?
Okay, through you, Chair. I've contacted Rother and said that you are exactly that wording, just copied and pasted it, and they've just come back to me and said they're going to get some information and come back to me. So we haven't had any conversations yet. I'm waiting for them to come back to me with information. So when they do, then we can work out what that is.
Yeah.
I don't have a reply yet.
Yeah. Councillor Bryne.
Thanks, Chair. With a Rother District Council hat on, I believe that the deadline for deciding that there is or is not any commercial interest in the Bexhill toilets is the end of this month. And at that time, I believe there will be 3 options presented to the members of Rother District Council as to the valuations. What the valuation will, there will be a valuation. I don't think, even if it's 0, it has to be called a valuation.
Yeah.
You can't just transfer it for nout.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to do with Rother, that's the legal position on district councils getting rid of their assets, and it's to stop all sorts of skullduggery going on.
Yeah.
But as you so rightly say, Chair, we will know more. I know that that pricing is underway at the moment, and that the next step in that is for the person who's producing that pricing document to present it to Rother members, who will then okay it, and if that then becomes the price, it will be offered to whoever else is interested in this specific term. In this way, we're only looking at Bexhill. I believe there might have been some commercial interest in some of the parish-based toilets. So all aspects of that devolvement strategy are going to be explored overall, but Bexhill is likely to be the one that says no commercial value.
For transparency purpose, I think it's really important that that is in here, because there's a record, and I would suspect that will be in there until it's resolved, so that we remember what we've written.
But I think it's very important that we push on with this and not get hung up with technicalities, because with the local government reorganisations coming down the track, the worst thing that could happen is for Rother to be told you can't move anything, and for us to be told you can't move anything, and for the poor residents of Bexhill to be without toilets for yet another tourist season. So I think we've really got to negotiate our way through this, not take up a stuck position. We're not going to move unless you move. We can't get into that again, please.
Okay. Shall I move on? Okay. So 6C is to note letter from Rother District Council. That's just a reminder of the letter that came out from the asset manager at Rother regarding the toilets that was sent out on the 28th of November. That is just purely a reminder. So I'll move on to item 7, which is CCTV. There was a meeting that had been booked, but unfortunately police availability has meant that was cancelled, and there's another meeting being arranged for January. That is to understand, following the motion that was passed to investigate the potential of installing further CCTV in Edgerton Park. So we're waiting for the police to come back with another date. Hopefully that will be in January. 7B, that is just for information. That's going to be reviewed in June. That is around all of our CCTV portfolio that we have, to see whether they're in the right place, what other potential we have for CCTV within Bexhill, and the agreement was that that would be reviewed in June 2025. due to the quantity of work that our clerk and her team have at the moment. So I'll move on to item 8, which is the Town Accessibility Working Group. You've had the notes, I believe, that were distributed recently. Myself, Councillor Crotty and Councillor Winter met as a working group to investigate what we could do around town accessibility. Any comments or observations around that before I move on?
Just out of interest, I just wondered how you make a town autism friendly, because there are so many diverse variations on autism.
It's an interesting challenge. Yes, it is an interesting challenge. It's around potential signage, where it is, the wording within it, that type of thing that can make it more accessible for other people, not necessarily just with autism, but for people who may need to be directed in a slightly different way. Particularly, you've got people with colour blindness as an example. That can be a detraction from going down a certain way. One thing that we did want to do, and obviously we don't have any power as a working group, so I need the commitment of this committee, is to do a smallish survey of potentially going into maybe 20 shops in one street, say, to review them around a checklist to see how accessible that some of the shops are, i.e. ramps, width of doorways, how far you can go in before you get restrictions with wheelchairs and that type of thing, with a view to potentially putting something in place to try and help shops to be able to come to us if they've got accessibility issues, to make shops more accessible, like small ramps at the doorways, etc., etc. Now obviously we've got to do some groundwork first, but I don't want to go off sort of ad hoc, if you like, without this committee backing what we're trying to do. So I'd like some sort of discussion whether you think that's worthwhile doing, and whether we should pick maybe Sackville Road or Western Road or Devonshire Road and pick some shops just as a test. I don't want to go and commit to do every single shop in Bexhill, because there's a lot of shops in Bexhill, not just in the centre but outside of the centre of Bexhill, which all may have accessibility issues. And this is around, we've already got the map that was created a year, 18 months ago, which is great. We need to do some work around advertising that, because a lot of people that don't know about it, and we can incorporate that within it. And if we can then advertise shops that are very accessible, that might encourage their more footfall, better turnover for the shops, etc. If we can get that sort of engagement with shops, it might help some accessibility. So what I was rather hoping is that this committee may be sort of supportive, and whether we can potentially use some of our SIL money by this committee asking for finance to put to one side a sum of money, relatively smallish sum of money from our SIL funds, to use that if shops then say to us, well, a ramp here would be very good, then we can go and get some quotes, come back to this committee, and etc., etc. But I don't want to waste huge amounts of time if this committee isn't on the same page as what the three of us are. We've also talked about engaging with other people who have disabilities, somebody who is partially sighted, somebody in a wheelchair, to get their different eye-line view of things rather than just us three. And I have to say that the meeting that we had was, I felt very fruitful, and I think there's some things that we can do to help residents within Bexhill getting better access to our shops. That's not to say that every single shop has access issues, because a lot of them are very, very good, and a lot of this work has been done previously, but it's always worth, with the amount of new shops that are opening, there's been 3 or 4 new businesses opening in Bexhill in the last month, it'll be worth visiting those at some point. So quite happy to open it to debate and see whether you agree with where the working group are going. Councillor Byrne.
I think that's exactly the sort of thing a town council should be doing. I wholeheartedly support it. I think whether you want us to vote a specific sum of money, or whether you want to be able to draw on SIL money against specific objectives, I think is up to you or up to the committee as they see fit. But I don't think this is one to penny pinch on. And as I say, I think it's just one of those things that really is what a town council really should be doing. And the better, more accessible we make the town, the better.
Okay. Anyone else want it? Councillor Plim?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo Councillor Burns' speech there. I think it's a very worthwhile cause, and the paperwork that's been put forward here is an excellent start. Excellent start. As a working group, you might wish to see whether you could tap into the services or the funds even of the Chamber of Commerce,
Yep.
who represent the business interests within the town. They might be able to help you out. I see Councillor Crotty is looking to find bylaws within the town centre. Well, you'll need a little bit of liaison there with Rother District Council, and no doubt there's Rother District councillors that will be able to help you on those lines.
Yeah.
Not too sure what bylaws he's looking into, but how they would affect sort of accessibility.
Yeah, there are an awful lot of A-boards that are around in roads in Bexhill, and some towns have restrictions on A-boards as to when they can be there, and there's a lot of, if you've only got to walk down any street and the pavements, there's an awful lot of obstacles that are on those pavements, and most of those would be covered under a bylaw of some sort. Historically, they were around 100 or so years ago. It's whether we can find them or not, and see whether we're breaking any restrictions by putting ramps, albeit a small ramp from the pavement up, and what permissions we've got to see. Regarding finance, I was sort of in my own mind, and I haven't discussed this with Councillor Winter or Councillor Crotty, but I was thinking about potentially sidelining sort of between £3,000 and £5,000 of SIL money as a starting point, because if it's unlimited, we may get carried away, and I wouldn't want to do that. I think it needs to be controlled to start with. So that's what I was thinking, somewhere around that, maybe 5,000 SIL money, because we do have SIL money, and this, in my mind, is what SIL money should be about. It's improving the infrastructure within Bexhill. So we're also aware that there are other people looking at accessibility, and when we get the commitment to go and do some research, then we'll engage with, I know Councillor Bayliss and Councillor Hollidge have done some work on it previously, so we will engage them when we've done some groundwork before we get too carried away with it. So I'm really, I suppose, asking for a proposer and a seconder to potentially ask for £5,000 worth of SIL money towards this, and then we can crack on with it.
Propose.
Okay, a seconder, and seconded by Councillor Plim. So that will give us permission then to go to the next finance meeting. Oh, we need to have a vote for that. All those in favour of asking the Finance Committee to earmark 5,000 of the SIL money towards potential, we may not use it, but at least it's there rather than
A drawdown facility up to 5,000.
That's carried unanimously. Anybody else like to discuss anything on Town Accessibility Working Group? Or I'll move on. I don't want to take any credit at all for the words, Councillor Plim, that were produced. They were produced by Councillor Winter, and I agree. Excellent words. Item 9, we move on to Bexhill Wild Doomsday Project. So 9A is to appoint, this has been deferred once, to appoint a councillor to join the board of Coombe Valley CIC. It was deferred from the last meeting. So does this committee wish to appoint a councillor to join the board of Coombe Valley CIC? That's the first decision we have to make.
No, that decision.
Oh, sorry, that decision's been made. We've got to appoint somebody from this committee. Who would like to be a Bexhill Town Councillor on the board of Coombe Valley CIC? If we don't have a volunteer, then we can't appoint anyone. No one is volunteering.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Councillor Byrne is volunteering to be director on Coombe Valley CIC. Do we have any? Yeah. Do we have any other nominations? Do we have a seconder for Councillor Byrne? Councillor Rusten. All those in favour? I see hands going up rather quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's carried. Congratulations, Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. I was the RDC representative with Coombe Valley before, so it's not terra incognita.
That's good that you've got a background knowledge to it.
A bit.
Yes. So 9B, to consider the request from David Dennis for him to write to the Secretary of State for the Environment to ask for a face-to-face meeting to ensure priority protection of Galley Hill. So you had the details circulated to you all. In simple terms, this is to extend the SSSI to cover Galley Hill where the new bees have been found. and a letter has been sent to the previous government and to the new government, and no reply has been received from either. And this is for David Dennis has asked that he writes to the Secretary of State for the Environment, asking for somebody from the Secretary of State to come down and meet him face to face. Now, before I open it to a debate, we have to remember that David Dennis is a contractor for us. He's not a town councillor, he's not employed by the town council, he's a contractor. And he wants to meet somebody from a government organisation face to face, which, without anybody from the town council there representing the town council. So I have personally some concerns, but I'll open it to debate to see what people think we should do. Councillor Plim.
I would be much more happy if we could ask the town clerk to write to the Secretary of State and ask for a face-to-face meeting.
Okay.
I think that's the appropriate way to do.
I do have another option, which is to escalate it to our MP, because our clerk has written once and no reply has been received. So the difficulty is with all the restructuring of local government and Environment Agency and where all that fits with treble SIs, to write a second time, which will actually be a third time on the same subject, almost suggests we're part nagging type thing, which maybe we might have to.
In all due respect to our MP, he doesn't represent Bexhill Town Council.
No, he represents anything within Bexhill, and we're thinking of the bees. I know that's tenuous, so what do people think? We've got one option of escalating it, one option of sending a further letter to the Environment Agency. Well, sorry, the Secretary of State for the Environment. Councillor Blagrove.
I think nobody knows the subject like he does, and I think he should be given a chance to do that face to face. However that could happen, I don't know. But he's very passionate about it. None of us know about it. Nobody else knows about it. The clerk doesn't know about it. So I think we should look at facilitating how that could happen.
Okay. Councillor Byrne.
I take your point on David's status as a contractor and it being desirable to have some representation from Bexhill Town Council. At the same time, I take Councillor Blagrove's point as well. David Dennis is the expert. He has been known to be a little bit intransigent in way of negotiating. He's a little bit all or nothing, like many environmentalists are, but he's very knowledgeable and has very practical solutions. So I think he should lead, but we should have a council presence.
Maybe one of us could go with him. I'll volunteer to do that.
Well done.
I'm not sure whether councillors can meet directly, can they?
Why don't we write and try and get a meeting first?
Okay.
And then if we get a meeting, then we can work out what to do, because we've got to get a meeting with the Secretary of State is going to be a bit tricky.
Yeah.
So before we
It'll
decide
be a
who's
representative,
going,
it won't be the Secretary of State, that's for sure.
If you decide that you want to get a meeting, let's try and get a meeting first face to face and then work out a plan of how we approach it, because it's normally 2 councillors and all that stuff. Yeah. So let's try and get a meeting first, I'll probably say. It's going to take a while, I would have thought.
It will be for you to write another letter.
So I'll write to try and get a meeting, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, and I'll ask David to send me some words.
Okay. Is that agreed? Do we need to propose and second that?
Sorry, would it be appropriate for the MP to know about the situation and the letter we're writing? Just as there's 2
copy of
approach. I think that would be prudent. Yeah. To set forward a copy onto our MP as to what we're trying to do, then at least he's aware. So we've got a couple of actions. One is for our clerk to write asking for a face-to-face, and if they do have a face-to-face, we'll then decide who's going to attend and to copy in the MP. Yeah. So that's a proposal, so I guess I propose that. Need a seconder for that. Councillor Plim. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. 9C, to receive any updates on the Doomsday project, including leaky dams. We haven't got any further updates, but it's in the same position, I believe, that it's unknown really as to how to move that forward. So I don't believe we have any updates on that, so it's just there. And anything else that we can do to try and assist, I'm sure we will, but at the moment there's a bit of an impasse that's been reached, which may be solvable, may not be. That would be for David Dennis to come back to us.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the SCC response,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible unless somebody wants to throw an awful lot of money at getting a consultant in to do modelling and everything else.
Someone's got to move significantly to remove the impasse. I agree. So that's really just for information. So moving on to item 10, which is bus shelters. To note, Wave Arts work complete on the bus shelter in Ninfield Road, outside Little, which I have to say, I think it's lovely for those that have seen it. It's very bright and breezy, and actually fits in much better than what I thought it would do outside Little. And some people have made some comments, but most of them are quite positive from what I've read. Councillor Blagrove.
Yeah, I think it looks very pretty as well, but I also think it looks very bold. I think, and people have actually expressed this on social media, that it's not right for the area. And it's very hard to go against something when the majority are going, oh yes, it's lovely and pretty. I'm wondering how many bus stops and how many other things are going to be painted in this town. Is it going to be, as soon as one's finished, we paint another one? In 20 years' time, you know, are we going to be fully painted up all over the place like Brighton?
So this committee have started a plan as to refurbishing all of them. We've got two of the older ones that are being worked on with Bexhill Heritage. Some more work's being done on another one, and there was a plan to do the first 6 of these, with one outside the Pelham and one outside Little in Sidley, and then we will be moving around all of them to refurbish all of them. If it's appropriate to put that type of design, then it will be appropriate, but it will be specific to the area that they are in. So all of them will be refurbished. They may all be painted exactly the same, they may not be. It depends upon the designs will come through this committee, and as it says here, further designs to follow for approval, so we'll pick some more. I think the other 4 are in town, so the design of the one in outside Little may not be exactly the same for one in Endwell Road, as an example, but it may be. That will be for this committee to decide. So if we decide to paint them all exactly the same, then that will be a democratic decision that's made by this committee. So if people don't like those designs, this was a trial to start with to see what the impact was. And I've seen a couple of negatives, but I have to be frank and open on this recording that those that were negative are the people that are always negative on social media.
Well, I disagree with that. That's not the case.
Sorry.
I've seen people
the way debates work, Councillor
I've
Blagrove, is you
seen
raise your
people-
hand and then I give the question. And the ones that I've seen have been really positive. Our clerk has had some emails from people saying, really great to see it being cheery, colourful and different. Councillor Blagrove.
I agree with you. There have been many people that have said how nice and lovely they are. But there have also been people, and these are not people that are generally on social media, a lot of new people have come out recently for one reason or the other and have voiced their opinions, and it's not 100% of people that like it. Probably I've lived here for too long, which is 67 years, or 66 years, and I see this as not what Bexhill is about. This is a newfangled thing. You know, we're just going around painting on walls and fences and painting anywhere and painting anything. And I am not keen on it one bit, sorry about that. I'm not saying that the art is not good. The art is very good. But I just don't think it's... I don't like it. I'm just being honest, as usual.
Honesty is important, and as is democracy, and that's what this committee will do. I would suggest that if people feel strongly about it when we talk about the next ones, that everyone does turn up to the committee to discuss, and it will be democratically decided what designs we use and on which bus stops. But that was a test. It hasn't been vandalised since the painting has been done. The only thing that's got to be done is the perspex that's there has got to be replaced, which we're working on a supplier for that, but there's been no vandalism to it, whereas in Sidley everything seems to be vandalised, and part of this is about protection. Councillor Rusten.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if there's people that feel very strongly that they don't like it, for instance, if we can point them in the direction of actually contacting us and we get some correspondence on it, when it does come to voting, they can be taken into consideration, because whatever we do, it's wrong. We do something good, it's wrong, and the state of what some of them were like before, it was an eyesore. So fair play to them for.
And there's an open door here for seats for residents to come and talk to us and express their dissatisfaction if they feel that strongly about it. But otherwise, it will be democratically decided amongst ourselves. Okay, and also to note that the men's shed are being consulted for a quote to do some work on. There's a bus stop on the sharp right turn, depends which way you're coming, by the Manor Barn. It's a newish bus stop that needs some work doing to it, and they've recognised they may be able to help us to make that one look a little bit smarter and tidy it up. And bear in mind, we do have nearly 50 odd bus stops to review and do some work with. I think this is a really positive start. So, Councillor Plim.
Yeah, in this process of contacting the men's shed, can we also reach out to the Old Town Preservation Society, who will have a vested interest in what that bus shelter is going to look like? It will be keen to do that.
I'm sure our clerk will recognise that.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we're not painting that. That's a rub down and have it exactly the colour that it is now.
Either way, I think they probably need that assurance.
We'll tell them, but nothing's changing.
So, moving on to item 11, highways. Sorry, Councillor Byrne.
Sorry, Chair, should have declared an interest in. I'm a trustee of the men's shed, even though I haven't commented.
Okay.
I just feel I probably should.
Yeah, thank you. I'll move on to item 11. Highways matters. The Strengthening Local Relationships meeting is to be held on the 21st of January. So that's hopeful, assuming that does go on, because obviously East Sussex County Council highways may change tomorrow. That may get cancelled. We'll have to wait and see. But that's the date, 21st of January, and that's been hard work to get that date in the diaries. So I'm sure.
Sorry, just to confirm, that's in the hub, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 2 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, good. Item 12, allotment sites. There are vacant plots on the Preston Road site, and they're going to be prepared in the spring. There is a waiting list, but there's no point in preparing them now because we may get some more snow and that can adversely affect things. So that's just an informational bit on the allotment. Great to see the other allotment with all the fencing done and the hedges cut and all tidy, so hopefully next year they'll be all safe and secure on that site as well. So moving on to item 13, the budget update will be received at the next meeting, but there's nothing untoward, it's just that the RFO has only just started, so she'll get all the information together for the next meeting. Motions from councillors, there were none. Correspondence and matters for information, 15A, is to consider the resident request to install a new bus shelter at Coodon Beach Railway Station. Some information was sent out about this, I believe. This bus stop was removed some time ago because it was dangerous, and a resident has asked directly to the leader of Rother Council, who's passed it on to us because obviously we look after bus stops, as to whether when the bus stop will be replaced. Councillor Blagrove.
This bus stop that was taken away from Coodon was removed by RDC many years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it is a bus stop that, as the man wrote in to Councillor Oliver, pointed out, that is needed. There's no other shelter. There's a lot of school children there that wait there. My problem with this is that happened a long time ago, and we've seen the correspondence that's gone back and forth about it. And in the meantime, we take on bus stops. But were we told about that bus stop? Were we in the know that one day, this would happen?
I can't answer that, but whether we were or we weren't, I'm not sure as a relevance is whether we want to put it back or not. And bus stops are under our...
Well, I was just pointing out here really that we took over bus stops, and suddenly at this point we're hearing about this one particular one that RDC took away, and I noted that yourself wanted to, you know, speak to East Sussex County Council about that, but Councillor Oliver brought you back and said, well, no, it was us that moved it.
Yeah.
And yet, when we took them on, we should have been told about that at that point, surely. Why weren't we told about that then, and we could be more prepared to see, actually, we need to put that bus stop back there, so we now have to do that. We don't have a choice, we didn't know about it, and it was absolutely, you know, right over our heads, and here we are with it.
I haven't got the answers to Councillor Blagrove, but we do have a choice whether we put a bus stop there or not. And that's down to us to decide that. Councillor L.
I think if we're taking over amenities, whether it's bus stops, toilets, whatever they may be, we take them over with the good and the bad. If there's work that needs to be done, they're ours now, it's down to us. End of, really. We just get on with it, and we get it done. If it is important for the children and it is important for the people that live there, we run the bus stops.
Yeah.
We deal with the problems that surround them.
Okay.
And it should be kept as simple as that, I believe.
Okay. Councillor Blagrove.
I echo that absolutely. You know, but the good and the bad, you know, if you're going to sell me a van or hire me a van or whatever, I'm going to see the good and the bad. My point here is absolutely about the fact that we didn't know about this. We weren't told about this. No one said take on the bus stops, but by the way, there's a bit of a problem with one in Couden, which will crop up. And it's cropped up. So I'm just saying that, you know, we shouldn't have surprises like that foisted upon us. Thank you.
So potentially, if we were to look at it that we took on the bus stops that were there at that time, it's therefore our choice whether we put one there, because there isn't one there now. That's the way I'm trying to look at it. Councillor Plim.
Yeah, I take Councillor Blagrove's observations there. It just means that we have got to be very, very wary of any other assets that come down to us. We have already found out that some of the toilets that were going to be passed on to us or sold on to us are woefully lacking in their conditions, and so there's work needed there. East Parade being one of them, or Marina rather being one of them. This is another example of work hanging on, and it seems to be that the district, because they're strapped for cash, because the political restraints that have been put on district councils over the years, can't fund these projects. They're not going to suddenly find the money to fund these projects because they can't. That's why they're passing down to us. Now, I took a screenshot of that site from Google Maps in 2021, I think it was, and more recently, and you can clearly see the difference. The bus stop was, at that time, a robust bus stop, and there was a telephone box next to it as well. The grass was cut as well. It was lovely. All that has gone. It's an absolute eyesore there now. However, that doesn't negate the fact that do we need a bus stop or not?
That's the question.
I have contacted one of the directors of the community bus, and that is the only route that uses that site, because the big buses can't get under the bridge and whatnot, and the turning circles and whatnot. And so that's the only route that uses that. And I've been reliably informed that it isn't a very well used bus stop. That was a bus stop with a shelter on one side, but on the other side of the road there isn't a bus stop. So are we saying we provide a bus stop, a shelter for people on one side of the road but not the other? So we'll be creating probably more of a problem for ourselves there. And if there's not a demand for it, I don't see why we should provide it. This is one person who's been vociferous in their need for a bus stop for other people.
But we have to.
I've not heard a demand from anyone else about this.
It's the same as grit bins that are provided. If one resident asks for a grit bin, we provide a grit bin for them. So if one resident says, when are we going to put this back in place, it's for us to decide first off. And I think we've somehow got to ignore the historics of it. We are where we are with it, and there are some learnings. I accept that there's some learnings, but The question is, do we as a town council want to pay for a bus stop? And that's without knowing how much that bus stop's going to be. So is it the best course of action is to get a quote from East Sussex County Council as to how much it's going to cost, and then come back with the costings, and then we'll decide. Because we don't know how much it's going to be. It might only be a few £100. I've got no idea because I don't know how much bus stops cost. But East Sussex have installed 5 or 6 new ones in Bexhill in the last year, so they must have a rough idea how much it's going to cost. So is that a potential way forward?
Yes, I mean, we're going to have to make the best of it, you know, but what's annoyed me so much is this should have been sorted out so long ago by Rother, and now it's jumped in our lap, and here we are, and yet, you know, we're going to have to find out how much they are. That's a starting point.
Okay. So I propose that we go and get a quote to find out how much a bus stop replacement would be, and come back to this committee. I need a seconder for that. Councillor Rusten, seconded. All those in favour of that, please show carried unanimously to get a quote and then bring it back to this committee. The other part of the correspondence is an update from Norman's Bay residents regarding the public convenience that they'd expressed an interest in looking after, and they're now not in a position to be able to undertake the maintenance of it, so I'm going to make the assumption that that falls into the same category as item 6B, which is to wait for Rother District Council's asset disposal process, unless anybody has any other opinion on it. We do have an option of treating that slightly separately because it's generally only open for 6 months, but if we treat that one separate to any of the other toilets, then it's almost, we could be criticised why we're doing something different with that to the others. So unless anybody wishes to say anything, I shall move on. Item 16, questions from councillors and future agenda items. Has anyone got any questions or future agenda items? Now's your time to speak, otherwise...
Yeah.
Councillor
One
Goss.
thing, although I might contact the clerk separately about this because 2 months is a long time. Just to try and understand how we've got one resident in Old Town who would like a speed watch survey done on the high street.
Okay.
Things and other things are speeding down there and that. It's just to see how we can get that organised.
What the process is.
Yeah, I did drop them a message on their Facebook page, but got no response.
Yeah. Okay. So just to understand what the process is to do
Yeah,
the
how, you know, whether we can organise it or we have contacts or what.
Okay. Councillor.
Me and Councillor Rusten did something quite similar in Pepsham, and we did have an email for a certain policeman that dealt with just that. If I find it, I shall pass it over to the clerk.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Date of the next meeting is the 5th of March. Motions to be received by the 24th of February 2025. And at that point, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.